flee, flee at once. Take ship or chariot, but go. What has happened that I need to take off in this way? The royal princess is dead just now, a victim of your poisons, and her father, Creon, is dead too. That's wonderful news. You will have my eternal gratitude, and I will call you my friend. What are you saying? Have you gone mad, woman? You have destroyed the royal household, and are glad to hear it and have no fear of the consequences? I too have something to say in answer to your words, but do not rush off. You will give me twice as, do not rush off, my friend, tell your tale. How did they die? You will give me twice as much pleasure if they died horrible deaths. Okay, so 11:35. I'm gonna run through this so fast. Like, I can't even hear. I've blown my eardrum now. Forget it. It's not even infected. It's gone. It's completely blown up. Like, you try to play Medea, and if you can't, you'll blow your eardrum. Okay. When your two children came in with their father and went to the bridal chambers, we slaves were glad, those of us who had been distressed before by your troubles. From ear to ear talk spread quickly that you and your husband had called a truce to your earlier quarrel. One kisses a hand, another the blonde heads of the children. I was beside myself with joy, and followed along to the women's quarters with the children. And our mistress, to whom we pay respect now instead of you, before she caught sight of your two children, held her eyes fixed eagerly on Jason. But then she covered up her face and turned away her pale cheek, sickened by the approach of the children. So you hear first person, a servant, retelling the story. Always the messengers would come to tell the story. So you have a first person point of view here. You have the setting, which is, the intimate, private space of the bridal chambers. You have the tone or the attitude that everyone is in a gleeful, celebratory kind of space because they think that a truce has been called and Medea has given up her wrath. Ha 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 ha. You have some, from ear to ear, talk spread quickly. Well, we have some personification on talk because obviously we can't talk. It doesn't spread. It's personified here to give it some amplification from ear to ear. So we have auditory, visual, descriptive imagery. We have, we're going to have soon taste and smell imagery. So pay attention to all the imagery in this passage. These are all the different narrative and stylistic devices and literary figurative devices that can be found in this passage that you could choose to write on this passage for your first upcoming stylistic analysis on October 19th. So you have, and our mistress to whom we pay respect now. Okay, so then you get a sense of the princess's disdain and her obvious feelings of resentment toward Jason's previous marriage and the children from just the fact that she covers up her face and turns her pale cheek away, sickened by the approach of the children. So you have some diction here too, word choices, sickened, right? Pale cheek, visual imagery. But your husband was trying to assuage the rancor and venom of the young woman by telling her this. Do not be angry. So you have some dialogue and the voices of the characters are coming through. So here's Jason trying to assuage his new bride. Do not be angry at my family. Won't you stifle your rage and turn back your face? Hold your husband's loved ones as your own. Take the gifts and ask your father to revoke the sentence of exile from my children for my sake. And she, when she saw the fine garments, did not resist. So she shifts, and her point of view is now fixed not on the children, but on the gifts, which beguiled her. Okay, so this is Medea's magic working. It's the charm of the appeal to her vanity, to her conceit. The princess will have these gifts that are gifts of the god, Helios, right? This golden dress and tiara of beaten gold. So, and she, when she saw the fine garments, okay, and before father and children were far from the house, she scooped up the fine robe and put it on. And she fitted the golden crown around her curls, and with a shimmering mirror arranged her hair, smiling at the lifeless image of her face. So we have some foreshadowing, right? Pale cheek, lifeless image, because what's going to happen to her? She's going down. She's going down. Yeah, shimmering mirror, rain shadows, slant the light, and then she gets up from her throne and walks through the room, stepping lightly on her delicate feet. So we get a sense that she's quite a fragile princess, and she has all the qualities that are attributed to a princess. Overjoyed with the gifts, again and again, casting an eye upon her arched foot. So we know, like, if you have an arched foot, generally you're sort of like, you know, looking at yourself and princessing out, or whatever princesses do. Suddenly there was a terrible sight to see. So now the tone shifts. It gets more sinister and dark. We know that the gifts are laden with poison, and the color drains from her face. Her step unsteady. She tries to go back, trembling from head to foot, and barely manages to stumble into her seat and avoid falling on the ground. Then an old woman, one of her slaves, thinking a fit from Pan, or one of the gods, had seized her, let out a wail, so we have some auditory imagery, before she saw white foam, so then you're getting all the visual imagery, streaming from her mouth, from her eyes, the pupils turned back, and the blood was drained from her skin. Then there came a terrible cry in answer to the wail. So you see a kind of monster transformation here going on, very much like a very gothic scene, right? The whole house reverberated with the sound of running feet. By now a fast walker turning the last lap of the course would be reaching his goal, and the poor woman, her eyes glazed over, stirred from her silence, and with a deep groan was trying to get up, but a twofold trouble was warring against her. The crown of gold around her head was spewing out an eerie stream of ravenous fire, and the fine robes, gifts from your children, were eating away the poor girl's beautiful flesh. So you can smell the flesh burning. She stands up and tries to escape, but she is on fire. She shakes her head this way and that, trying to throw off the crown, but all the more tightly the gold holds its bonds, and the fire, when she shook her head, burned twice as bright. And of course, fire is a symbol of, we can talk about her, obviously her rage, and it's also a symbol of passion and life force. So overcome by the disaster, she falls to the floor, unrecognizable to the sight of anyone but a parent. The condition of her eyes and her once lovely face were murky, and blood dripped from the top of her head with fire mixed in, and the flesh was dripping from her bones. And here we have a simile, like sap from a pine through the hidden gnawing of the poison, some more personification. A terrible sight. We were all afraid to touch the body. We had her fate to teach us. But her poor father, in ignorance of the tragedy, suddenly bursts into the room and throws himself on the body. He cries out, and enfolding her in his arms, he kisses her and speaks to her. My poor child, which of the gods has mangled you so horribly? Who has made me an aged tomb to grieve for you? Ah, me, let me die with you, my child. And when he stopped his weeping and wailing, he wanted to raise up his old limbs, but was held back by the fine robes, again another simile, like ivy by the shoots of laurel. The struggle was hair-raising. He wanted to get up on his feet, but she held him fast. If he tried to use force, she tore the aged flesh from his bones. After a time, he was exhausted, and the poor man let go of life. So these gifts, symbolic of, you know, some kind of truce, or symbolic of some kind of gifting, in this case, and economics, you know, for trying to fight for the children, are actually, ironically, gifts of death, right? So this is an important point that you can talk about in your paper as well, that would give you a lot of leverage, linking it to the overall dramatic structure of unbelonging and the thematic of love, marriage, or the lens that we're looking through of love, marriage, and family values. Of course, it is a gothic horror scene. I mean, and Medea, all through this messenger's speech, is gleefully, on every breath, titillated by how horrific the scene is. So that also alters our sympathies in a particular way. And yet, she was told by the Corinthian women not to do this, and she was asked to consider not to do it, and she still did it, and she doesn't seem to be so sad about it now. Anyways, my poor child, which of the gods, blah, blah, blah. He wanted to read, blah, blah, blah. After time, he dies, he expires. A tragedy that makes you want to cry. So, of course, the messenger is saying also, through his tone and his attitude, how he feels about Medea's actions. This is crucial because Euripides is giving a marginalized figure of a servant the power to impress upon us as an audience the moral undergirding the story. So, not for the first time he says, a tragedy makes you want to cry. In my view, your part is beyond my telling, and this is where his view is espoused. You will know how to escape punishment. Not for the first time I find our lives are a shadow, and I am not afraid to say that people who think they have everything figured out and are masters of logic, they are responsible for the greatest folly. No human being is happy. Strike it rich, and you are luckier than your neighbor, but happier, never. The god has inflicted many troubles on Jason today, and he deserves them. Unhappy daughter of Creon, done to death. How we pity you for your tragedy, all because of your marriage to Jason. My friends, I have determined to do the deed at once, to kill my children and leave this land, and not to falter or give my children over to let a hand more hostile murder them. They must die, and since they must, I, who brought them into the world, will kill them. But arm yourself, my heart. Why hesitate to do these tragic yet necessary evils? Come, unhappy hand of mine, and take note of all the symbols of hands. Take the sword, take it, move to the dismal turning point of life. Do not be a coward. Do not think of your children, how much you love them, how you gave them birth. For this one short day, forget your children and mourn tomorrow. For even if you kill them, still you love them very much. I am an unhappy woman. Becomes very important here when you see Lars von Trier's adaptation, how you feel about Medea here and how you'll feel about her after you see the adaptation. And that is the work of adaptation, that it in some way is the same story, but radically different than the original story as you maybe understood it or read it. Okay, earth and all shining rays of the sun, look down on this God-forsaken woman before she lays her murderous kin-killing hand on her children, for they are sprung from your golden seed, and when the blood of a god is shed by the hands of men, there is terror. But Zeus, born light, prevent her, stop her, drive from the house this wretched fury made murderous by the spirits of vengeance. Toil over the young has come to nothing, for nothing you gave birth to your dear children. You who left the most inhospitable entrance of the dark blue clashing rocks. Wretched one, why does heavy anger of the heart and hateful murder fall upon you? It is hard for mortals to expiate the taint of kindred bloodshed upon the earth. Grief comes in tune from the gods falling upon the murderer's house. Ah me, what will I do? Where will I run from my house? I do not know, dear brother, we are lost. Should I go into the house? I think I should stop the murder of the children. That's of course. Yes, by the gods, help us, we need you. How close are we being to that beneath the Lord? Ah. Okay, unhappy one. How you are made of rock or iron, who will kill the children whom you birth with death by your own hand? I have heard of one woman before this who laid her hands on her own dear children. Ino, maddened by the gods, when the wife of Zeus sent her wandering from her home, she plunged, poor woman, into the sea, for the impious death of the children.
She stretched her foot over the seashore, and with her two children she lost her life.
What could be still more awful? Marriage bed of women full of pain, and how many things you have done to us humans, all of them bad.
You there, woman standing here at the door, is he still in the house, Medea, who has perpetrated these heinous crimes, or has she taken flight? She will need to hide herself in the earth, or grow wings to lift her body high into the air if she is to avoid revenge from the royal house. Or does she trust that after killing the rulers of the country, he will escape their kingdom unpunished? But I am not so concerned about her as about my children. The family she assaulted will take care of her. I have come to save my children's lives in case Creon's relatives try to do something to them, exacting vengeance for their mother's godless murders.
Poor man, you do not know what the depth of evils you have come, Jason, or you would not have uttered these words.
What is it? Does she intend to kill me too?
Your children are dead, killed by their mother's hand.
Oh no, what are you saying? Woman, you have doomed me.
You need to know that your children are gone.
Where did you kill them? Inside the house or outside?
Open the gates and you will see your murdered children.
Hurry, unlock the doors. Now, servants, unfasten the bolts, so I may see the two disasters, my children dead and her, and I'll make her pay.
Appearing in a dragon-drawn chariot on the rooftop with the bodies in her arms. Why are you shaking the doors and trying to force them open to find the bodies and me, the perpetrator? You are wasting your effort. If you need anything from me, say so, but you will never touch me with your hand. Such transport the sun god, father of my father, has given me, a defense against the hand of my enemies.
You abomination, you vilest, most hateful woman, to the gods and to me and to the whole human race. You had the heart to take the sword to your own children to whom you gave birth, and you have left me childless and devastated. You did these things. How can you still look on the sunlight and earth after doing the most appalling deed? Damn you! Now I see it. I didn't understand it then. From your home and that barbarous land, the betrayer of your father and the country that reared you, the gods have hurled you as an avenging spirit against me, for you killed your brother at the heart, and then boarded the beautiful ship Argo. Last 2 minutes. That is where it started. But after marrying me and bearing my children, because of the marriage bed you killed them. There is no Greek woman who would have dread such deeds, any of whom I could have married, but instead chose you. A marriage tie that has wings, a lioness, not a woman with a temper more savager than Terhanian's Helia, but not even 10,000 curses could sting you. Such boldness is in you. Go, you depraved murderer of your children. What is left to me but to cry out for my faith? I will not enjoy my new marriage, and the children whom my father and brought up, I will never be able to speak to them alive, for I have lost them.
I could prolong an answer to your words if Father Zeus were not aware what you have gotten from me and what you did in return. You were not going to disrespect your marriage to me and lead a happy life, ridiculing me. And the royal bride and Creon who arranged the marriage for you were not going to exile me from the country and get away with it. Remember this, and go ahead and call me Linus if you like, and Scylla, dwelling in the Tiberian land. I have wrenched your heart as I had to do.
You will suffer too, and share in this tragedy.
You can be certain of that, but the pain is pleasure if you do not laugh.
Oh, children, what a terrible mother you had.
Oh, children, how you were destroyed by your father's disease.
My right hand did not strike them.
But your abuse and your new marriage.
You thought the marriage bed was worth your children's lives?
Do you think this is a trivial wrong for a woman?
If she is a good woman, but to you, nothing is good.
The children are dead. This will sting you.
They are a pollution to you.
The gods know who began this tragedy.
Then they know the violence of your heart.
Hate me, I too hate your irritating voice.
And I yours. This separation is easy.
What then? I too am eager to make my departure.
Allow me to bury my children and mourn over them.
No, never. I shall bury them with my own hand, taking them to the sanctuary of Hera Acaria, so that none of my enemies will defile them by tearing up their graves. And in this land of Sisyphus, I shall authorize a sacred festival and ritual to last forever for this unholy murder. And I shall go myself to the land of Erechthus to live with Aegeus, the son of Pandion. But you, a coward, you will die a coward's death as you deserve, struck on your head by a remnant of the wreck of the Argo, seeing a bitter end to your marriage to me.
But may the avenger of children destroy you and the justice that haunts murderers.
What god or divine spirit would listen to you, an oath breaker and deceiver of guests?
Loathsome child murderer.
Go home and bury your wife.
I am going, denied rights to my 2 children.
Do not mourn yet. Wait for old age.
Oh, dearest children.
To their mother, not to you.
And yet you killed them.
Yes, to wound you.
Oh boy, me. Yeah, I long to kiss the sweet lips of my children.
Oh, now you speak to them. Now you love them. Before you just push them aside.
In the name of the gods, let me touch the soft skin of my children.
That will not happen. Your words are thrown into the empty air.
Zeus, do you hear how I am driven away and what I suffer from this loathsome child killer, this lioness? This is all that is left of me, all that I can do to mourn and cry out to the gods, and and call the divine spirits to witness how she killed my children and keeps me from touching them with my hands and burning their bodies. I wish I had never fathered them to see them destroyed by you.
Of many
Many
things,
things Zeus
Zeus
is
in
an